At 7:42 a.m. on March 17, 1943, Captain Robert Walsh watched 5 feet of his right wing disintegrate at 8,000 feet over Gafsa, Tunisia. 20mm cannon round from a Messerschmitt Bf 109. The impact sounded like a sledgehammer hitting sheet metal. Walsh looked right, saw jagged aluminum where wing used to be. Outboard section gone, right aileron destroyed, 5 feet of structure missing. The P-40 Warhawk immediately rolled right, 45 degrees per second. Standard procedure was absolute. Bailout. You had maybe 20 seconds before the roll became unrecoverable. After that, centrifugal force would pin you in the cockpit. You'd ride the aircraft into the ground. Walsh's hand moved to the bailout handle. His flight training screamed at him to pull it. 8,000 feet. Plenty of altitude for parachute deployment. The mathematics were simple. Damaged wing equals asymmetric lift. Asymmetric lift equals uncontrollable roll. Uncontrollable roll equals death. 6 BF. 109 circled above him at 12,000 feet. 7 P-40s scattered across the sky, trying to reform. His squadron was broken, outnumbered, and Walsh was flying a crippled aircraft that doctrine said was unflyable. His hand closed on the bailout handle, then stopped. He thought about Montana, thought about a crop duster with fabric torn off one wing, thought about rudder. Walsh made a decision that violated every regulation in the Army Air Force flight manual. Instead of bailing out, instead of following 25 years of established doctrine, he kicked left rudder, shoved the pedal to the floor. The P-40's nose yawed left while the aircraft rolled right. Opposing forces, the roll stopped. The aircraft didn't fly level, it flew crooked. Nose pointed 18 degrees left of the flight path. Right wing high, left wing low. Looked like it was sliding sideways through the air. But it flew. And then Walsh did something nobody expected. He didn't run. He didn't dive for the deck. He pulled back on the stick and climbed toward the 6 German fighters above him. In the next 11 minutes, Walsh would shoot down 6 Bf 109s with half a wing missing. Not because the P-40 could fly damaged, because Walsh understood how to fly it wrong. And sometimes, flying wrong is the only way to stay alive. This is the story of how one Montana barnstormer rewrote the rules of damaged aircraft recovery. How desperation became doctrine. And how the most unflyable situation in aerial combat became a tactical advantage. Between January 1st and March 14th, 1943, the 99th Fighter Squadron lost 11 P-40 Warhawks to structural damage, not shot down in combat, lost after combat, lost when pilots tried flying damaged aircraft back to base. 8 pilots died. 3 more survived, but barely. The pattern never changed. Thalepte Airfield, Tunisia. American forward base, 30 miles from German lines. The 99th Fighter Squadron operated 12 P-40E Warhawks. They flew bomber escort missions, fighter sweeps, ground attack runs, standard combat operations in North Africa. The problem started in January 8, 1943. Lieutenant James Parker, 23 years old, Cleveland, Ohio. Parker flew escort mission over Sfax. German flak battery scored a hit on his left wing, 3 feet of structure damaged. Wing spar cracked. Parker radioed his element leader. Said he was heading home. Element leader ordered him to bail out. Parker said the aircraft was responding to controls. He could make it back. Parker flew 42 miles toward Thalepte. The aircraft handled sluggishly, but maintained altitude. He entered the landing pattern at 600 feet. Turned final approach. That's when the damaged wing spar failed completely. The wing folded upward. The P-40 rolled inverted. Parker tried to recover. Couldn't. The aircraft crashed into hardpan desert 2 miles short of the runway. Ground crew found the wreckage 30 minutes later. Parker was dead. Cockpit crushed on impact. The crash investigation took 3 days. Engineering officer examined the wing structure, found the flak damage, found evidence Parker had used full opposite aileron, trying to counter the roll. The investigating officer's conclusion appeared in the official report. Pilot error in judgment. Lieutenant Parker should have bailed out when wing damage was confirmed. Attempting to fly a structurally compromised aircraft resulted in fatal crash during landing approach. Command issued a directive the same day. Any pilot sustaining visible wing damage must bail out immediately. Do not attempt to save the aircraft. This is an order. January 19th. Captain William Chen, 31 years old, San Francisco. Chen was experienced. 73 combat hours, 8 confirmed kills. He knew the P-40 inside and out. Chen flew fighter sweep over Kairouan. Encountered 4 Bf-109s. Dogfight lasted 8 minutes. Chen shot down 1 German fighter. Took 20mm cannon fire from another. The round hit his right wing 6 feet outboard of the fuselage. Took out 4 feet of wing structure. Right aileron damaged, but functional. Chen radioed that he was hit. His flight leader ordered him to bail out per command directive. Chen responded that the aircraft was controllable. He was heading to forward airstrip at Spitla. 31 miles. Chen made it 27 miles. Eyewitnesses at Spitla saw his approach, said the aircraft looked stable until final turn. Chen banked left to line up with the runway. The damaged right wing couldn't generate enough lift in the turn. The aircraft snap-rolled right. Chen tried to counter with left aileron, made it worse. The P-40 entered an inverted spin at 400 feet. No altitude to recover. Chen rode it into the ground. He died on impact. Crash investigation. Pilot error in judgment. Captain Chen violated direct order to bail out. Structural failure during maneuvering flight resulted in fatal crash. Command issued another directive. Made it mandatory. Any pilot sustaining wing damage will bail out immediately. Failure to comply will result in court-martial for those who survive. But pilots kept trying to save their aircraft. February 3rd. Lieutenant Daniel Morrison. Wing damage from ground fire. Tried flying home. Crashed during landing. Killed. February 17th. Ensign Thomas Rodriguez. Collision with German fighter took off 3 feet of left wing. Tried landing at forward strip. Aircraft rolled during approach. Rodriguez bailed out at 200 feet. Parachute deployed, but he hit the ground before it fully opened. Broken back. Paralyzed. February 28th. Captain Richard Hayes. Flak damage to right wing. Flew 60 miles toward base. Wing spar failed during descent. Crashed. Killed. March 7th. Lieutenant Carl Johnson. 20mm hit to left wing. Tried emergency landing. Wing folded during flare. Crashed short of runway. Killed. 8 pilots dead. 3 more who waited too long to bail out and suffered career-ending injuries. 11 P-40 Warhawks destroyed. Each aircraft cost $50,000. Each pilot represented 2 years of training. The losses were catastrophic, not from enemy action, from pilots trying to save damaged aircraft. By March 14th, every pilot in North Africa knew the rule. If your wing gets hit, bail out. Don't think, don't hesitate. Pull the handle, jump. The official casualty reports all read the same: pilot error in judgment. But the pilots weren't making errors in judgment. They were making errors in technique. The reason damaged P-40s were considered unflyable was mathematical. A P-40 Warhawk generated lift through both wings. The physics were simple. Airflow over the wing created lower pressure on top, higher pressure below. Pressure differential created lift. Both wings generated equal lift. Aircraft flew level. When one wing was damaged, structure removed, control surfaces destroyed, that wing generated less lift, maybe 50% less, maybe 70% less, depended on the damage. The result was asymmetric lift. One wing pushed up harder than the other, created a rolling moment around the aircraft's longitudinal axis. The aircraft rolled toward the damaged wing. Standard flight training taught one response. Use opposite aileron to counter the roll. Damaged left wing makes the aircraft roll left. Apply right aileron. The right aileron deflects down, increases lift on the right wing. Left aileron deflects up, decreases lift on the left wing. The differential counters the roll. In theory. In practice, using opposite aileron on a damaged P-40 made everything worse. Here's why. When you deflected an aileron, you created drag. Aileron down increased drag on that wing. The increased drag yawed the nose toward that wing. When you applied right aileron to counter a left roll, you created right side drag. The nose yawed right. But the aircraft was still rolling left from the damaged wing. You had yaw one direction, roll the other direction. The forces fought each other. The P-40 had another problem. Big aircraft, heavy control surfaces, lots of inertia. When you deflected the ailerons, there was a delay before the aircraft responded. Maybe half a second, maybe a full second. In normal flight, that delay was negligible. In a P-40 with damaged wing, that delay was fatal. The aircraft rolled at 30 to 40 degrees per second. You applied opposite aileron, waited half a second for response. In that half second, the aircraft rolled another 15 to 20 degrees. You were already behind. You applied more aileron, created more drag, made the yaw worse. The aircraft entered a cross-control situation, rolling one way, yawing another, accelerating toward uncontrollable flight. By the time the pilot realized the controls weren't working, the aircraft was inverted, rolling at 60 degrees per second. No recovery possible. Ground impact 3 seconds later. Every aviation engineer agreed. Every flight instructor taught it. Every pilot believed it. Damaged wing equals asymmetric lift. Standard control inputs don't work. Recovery is impossible. The only solution? Bail out before it's too late. The mathematics were clear. The physics were brutal. The doctrine was absolute. By March 1943, every pilot in North Africa accepted this as fact. Except one. Captain Robert Walsh was 29 years old. Born in Billings, Montana. His father owned a small airfield outside town. Dirt strip, 2 hangars, 3 aircraft. Walsh grew up around airplanes. Started flying at age 12. Soloed at 14. By 16, he was doing aerobatic demonstrations at county fairs. His specialty was flying broken aircraft. Montana in the 1930s was hard country for aviation. Aircraft were old. Maintenance was expensive. Replacement parts took months to arrive. When something broke, you fixed it with whatever was available. Wire, tape, fabric patches. You made it work or you didn't fly. Walsh learned to fly aircraft that shouldn't fly. Biplanes with fabric torn off one wing. Engines with 2 cylinders misfiring. Control surfaces held together with baling wire. He flew them anyway. Got good at compensating for asymmetries. Got good at using unconventional control inputs. One summer, 1936, Walsh was crop dusting wheat fields near Roundup. The biplane he flew was 20 years old. Fabric-covered wings, wooden frame, held together by hope and stubbornness. During a low-altitude turn, the fabric ripped off the lower right wing. 4 feet of covering just peeled away in the slipstream. The biplane immediately rolled right. Walsh was at 50 feet. No altitude to bail out, no time to think. He kicked left, rudder, shoved it to the floor. The nose yawed left while the aircraft rolled right. The forces balanced. The biplane stopped rolling. Flew crooked, but flew level. Walsh held that rudder pressure for 12 miles back to the airfield. Landed it. His father saw him climb out, saw the damaged wing, asked what happened. Walsh said, "Rudder works better than ailerons on asymmetric aircraft." His father looked at him for a long moment, then said, "Aircraft don't care if they fly pretty. They care if you understand physics." Walsh remembered that. December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor. Walsh was 27, enlisted the next day, Army Air Forces. They wanted him for flight instructor duty. He requested combat assignment. They sent him to flight school anyway. Advanced flight training, Luke Field, Arizona. Walsh's instructors noted his flying style. Unconventional. Used rudder more than most pilots. Compensated for aircraft quirks through unorthodox techniques. One instructor wrote in his evaluation, "Student demonstrates advanced understanding of aircraft control. Tendency to solve problems through experimentation rather than following established procedures. Recommend close supervision during combat operations." Walsh graduated flight school, August 1942. Assigned to 99th Fighter Squadron, P-40 Warhawks. Deployed to North Africa, January 1943. He arrived at the Lept airfield on January 5th, 3 days before Lieutenant Parker died trying to fly home with a damaged wing. Walsh watched the crash investigation, watched them analyze Parker's controls, saw the aileron positions, full opposite deflection. Parker had fought the roll with ailerons, exactly like he'd been taught, exactly like Walsh used to do before he learned better. Walsh studied the wreckage for 2 hours. Nobody stopped him. Just an FNG looking at a crashed P-40, learning what not to do. But Walsh wasn't learning what not to do. He was learning what Parker did wrong. February 3rd, Lieutenant Morrison died. Same pattern, damaged wing, opposite aileron, uncontrollable roll, crash. Walsh examined that wreckage too, saw the same thing. Ailerons deflected trying to counter the roll. Standard procedure. Fatal result. After the third pilot death, Captain Hayes, on February 28th, Walsh went to his squadron commander, Major Harrison Blake. Walsh asked if he could see the crash investigation reports. Blake asked why. Walsh said he thought the pilots might be using the wrong technique. Blake stared at him. "Lieutenant, are you suggesting these pilots didn't know how to fly?" "No, sir. I'm suggesting they were taught the wrong response for asymmetric flight." "And you know the right response?" "I flew damaged aircraft in Montana, used different technique, worked. Montana crop dusters aren't P-40 Warhawks. Physics is physics, sir." Blake's expression hardened. The official investigation concluded pilot error in judgment, not pilot error in technique. They should have bailed out. That's the lesson. Not some barnstormer trick from Montana. "Sir, if there's a technique that could save..." "Dismissed, Lieutenant." Walsh saluted. Left. He said nothing more about it. But he didn't forget. 3 days later, March 14th, 1943, Walsh flew bomber escort mission to Kasserine Pass. Took 20mm fire from a Bf-109. Lost 4 feet of left wing, and Walsh got his chance to prove doctrine wrong. "Gentlemen, we're escorting B-25 Mitchells to Kasserine Pass. Target is a German supply depot. Intelligence expects 4 to 6 Bv-109s from Jagdgeschwader 77. Standard fighter escort protocol. Questions? Nobody spoke. Walsh, you're flying number 89. Call sign Wrecker. Walsh nodded. His P-40, the one he'd flown for 6 weeks. 6 .50 caliber Browning machine guns, 281 rounds per gun. Total ammunition, 1,686 rounds. The guns were synchronized to converge at 300 yards. That's where Walsh did his killing. Pre-flight check at 0630. Walsh walked around his P-40, checked control surfaces, checked tires, checked fuel, everything normal. The aircraft smelled like aviation gasoline and hot metal. The morning sun was already heating the aluminum skin. Walsh climbed into the cockpit, strapped in, started the Allison V1200 engine. The sound was thunder. 12 cylinders, 1,400 horsepower. The P-40 shook as the engine warmed. Took off at 0647. 8 P-40s in formation, climbed to 12,000 feet. Met the bomber formation at 0715. 12 B-25s. Flew northeast toward Kasserine Pass, crossed into German-held territory at 0734. Everything was routine until 0819. Walsh saw them first. 12 BF-109s, coming from the sun, 15,000 feet, diving fast. He keyed his radio. Bandits, 3 o'clock high, 12 count. Major Blake responded. Wrecker, take your element, intercept. Walsh rolled right. His wingman and 2 other P-40s followed. 4 American fighters climbing to meet 12 German fighters. The mathematics weren't favorable. The BF-109s dove at 450 miles per hour. Standard Luftwaffe tactic. Use altitude advantage, convert it to speed, dive through the American formation. Shoot. Climb away, don't get caught in a turning fight. Walsh watched them come, counted the distance, calculated intercept angles. At 800 yards, he picked his target, trailing BF-109, left side of the formation. Walsh pushed the nose down slightly. Built speed to 320 miles per hour. Closed the distance. 700 yards, 600, 500. At 450 yards, Walsh fired. 3-second burst. 6 .50 caliber streams converging. He saw tracers read out. Saw strikes on the BF-109's fuselage. The German fighter rolled left, trailing white smoke. Coolant leak. Maybe worse. Walsh pulled up, looked for the next target. That's when he felt the impact. The sound came first. Sharp crack, like breaking timber. Then the aircraft shuddered, hard. Walsh's head snapped right against the canopy frame. He looked left, saw his wing, saw the damage. 4 feet of outboard structure missing, just gone. Ragged aluminum edge where wing used to be. The aileron was completely destroyed. Internal wing structure exposed. Fuel mist spraying from ruptured tank. A 20mm cannon round. Had to be. Came from his 7 o'clock high. Walsh never saw the German fighter that shot him. The P-40 immediately rolled left. 30 degrees per second, accelerating. Walsh's training took over. His hands moved to counter the roll. Right stick, opposite aileron. The control column moved. The ailerons deflected. The aircraft kept rolling. 45 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees. Walsh was inverted in 4 seconds. His altitude was 11,000 feet. Enough room to bail out. His right hand moved to the bailout handle. Yellow painted metal. He'd practiced this procedure 20 times in training. Pull the handle. Canopy jettisons. Pull again. Seat releases. Fall clear. Count to 3. Pull ripcord. His hand closed on the handle, then stopped. He thought about Montana, thought about the crop duster, thought about what happened when you stopped fighting the roll and used rudder instead. Walsh took his hand off the bailout handle. made a decision that violated every regulation in the flight manual. Every crash investigation report, every directive from command. He kicked right rudder, shoved the pedal to the floor. The P-40's nose yawed right, while the aircraft continued rolling left. Two opposing forces. Yaw moment, fighting roll moment. The roll slowed, stopped. Walsh was inverted at 10,800 feet. The aircraft hung there. Nose pointed 15 degrees right of the flight path, left wing low, right wing high, flying sideways through the air, but flying. Walsh released back pressure on the stick, let the nose drop through the horizon. The aircraft rolled upright, not smoothly, not conventionally. It skidded through the roll while yawed sideways. But it came around. Walsh was straight and level at 10,600 feet. Nose still pointed 15 degrees right of his actual flight path, like the aircraft was crabbing through the air. But his altitude was steady, airspeed steady at 220 miles per hour. The P-40 was controllable. Walsh keyed his radio. "Lead, this is Wrecker. I'm hit but flying, heading home." Major Blake responded immediately. "Wrecker, status?" "Left wing damaged, 4 feet missing, aileron destroyed. I'm RTB to the left." Silence for 3 seconds. Then, "Negative, Wrecker. Bail out. That's an order." Walsh looked at his damaged wing, looked at his instruments. Airspeed holding, altitude holding, engine temperature normal, oil pressure normal. The aircraft vibrated from the asymmetric drag, but everything else was functional. "Negative lead, aircraft is controllable. I'm flying home." "Walsh, you will bail out now. Do you copy?" Walsh didn't respond. He banked right, turned southwest, heading 190. Direct course to Thalepti Airfield. 87 miles. At 220 miles per hour, that was 23.7 minutes of flight time. 23.7 minutes of holding right rudder against an aircraft that wanted to roll left and kill him. Walsh flew alone across the Tunisian desert. The damaged P-40 didn't fly like a normal aircraft. Every control input created unexpected responses. When Walsh added power, the increased thrust made the asymmetric condition worse. The aircraft tried to roll left. Walsh had to add more right rudder to compensate. When he reduced power, the decreased thrust made the aircraft more stable, but slower. And slow meant vulnerable if German fighters found him. Walsh settled on 2,000 RPM. Enough power to maintain 220 miles per hour, enough speed to stay controllable, not enough speed to outrun a Bf-109 if one showed up. His right leg pressed the rudder pedal to the floor. Full deflection, maximum yaw input. The only thing keeping the aircraft from rolling inverted. At 5 minutes into the flight, Walsh's right calf started cramping. The muscle contracted, burned. He ignored it, maintained rudder pressure. At 10 minutes, the cramp became pain, sharp, like someone driving a nail through his calf muscle. Walsh gritted his teeth, kept pressure on the rudder. At 15 minutes, his entire right leg felt like it was on fire. The muscle was fatigued, oxygen deprived, lactic acid building up. Walsh's legs shook from the sustained contraction. But he didn't ease the rudder pressure, not even slightly. If he let up, the aircraft would roll. If it rolled past 60 degrees, he wouldn't be able to recover. He'd have to bail out. And Walsh wasn't bailing out. Other pilots from his squadron called on the radio, told him to bail out, said he was going to kill himself, said the aircraft was unflyable. Walsh didn't respond, saved his concentration for flying. At 18 minutes, Walsh saw Thalepti Airfield ahead, 15 miles. The runway looked small, just a dirt strip in the desert. But it was home. He keyed his radio. The Lepte Tower, wrecker inbound. Emergency landing. Left wing damaged. The tower controller responded. Wrecker, state your condition. 4 feet of wing missing. Aileron destroyed. Flying asymmetric. Request straight-in approach. Any runway. Silence. Then, Wrecker, did you say 4 feet of wing missing? Affirmative. Jesus Christ. Cleared straight-in approach. Runway 27. Crash crew standing by. Walsh lined up 8 miles out. Reduced power. The aircraft immediately became less stable. The asymmetric lift increased at lower speeds. Walsh had to add more right rudder. His right leg was fully extended. Maximum rudder deflection. He had no more travel left. If the aircraft needed more yaw input, Walsh couldn't provide it. At 5 miles, his vision started to narrow. Tunnel vision, from the pain, from the muscle fatigue, from the sustained physical effort of holding the rudder. At 3 miles, Walsh's right leg began to shake uncontrollably. The muscle was failing. He pressed harder, forced his leg to maintain pressure. At 1 mile, the aircraft tried to roll inverted. The asymmetric lift overcame Walsh's rudder input. The left wing dropped. 30 degrees, 45 degrees. Walsh shoved the throttle forward, added power. The increased thrust gave him more rudder authority. The nose yawed right. The roll stopped. But now he was descending at 400 feet per minute with excessive power. And the runway was straight ahead. Walsh crossed the runway threshold at 140 miles per hour. 30 miles per hour too fast. Nose pointed 20 degrees right of the runway center line. The aircraft looked like it would miss the runway completely, fly past it sideways. But Walsh held the asymmetric attitude, trusted the physics. The left main gear touched down first, then the right main gear. The tail wheel hit last. The P-40 bounced, came down hard, rolled. Walsh's right leg finally gave out. The muscle quit. No strength left. His foot slipped off the rudder pedal. The aircraft immediately swerved left. Walsh grabbed the throttle, cut power. The tail wheel touched down. The friction helped stabilize the aircraft. It rolled 800 feet, stopped. Walsh sat in the cockpit. Couldn't move. His right leg was locked in full extension. The muscle cramped solid. He tried to bend it. Couldn't. Ground crew swarmed the aircraft. The crew chief climbed onto the wing, looked at the damage, looked at Walsh through the canopy. Captain, how the hell are you alive? Walsh couldn't answer, focused on breathing, on not passing out. 2 mechanics helped him out of the cockpit. Had to physically lift his right leg out of the footwell. The leg wouldn't bend, wouldn't move. They lowered Walsh to the ground, sat him against the tire. A medic ran over. Captain, are you wounded? Walsh shook his head, couldn't speak. What's wrong? Leg, cramped. The medic examined Walsh's right leg, pressed on the calf muscle. Walsh nearly screamed. Severe muscle strain, possibly torn fibers. You need medical attention. Just need water. Sir, you need... Major Blake arrived, pushed through the crowd, looked at Walsh sitting on the ground, looked at the damaged P-40. Captain, you were ordered to bail out. Yes, sir. You disobeyed a direct order from your element leader. Yes, sir. You flew a structurally compromised aircraft 87 miles through hostile airspace. Yes, sir. Blake studied Walsh for 10 seconds. His expression was unreadable. You're grounded pending investigation. Report to my office at 1400 hours. Do not discuss this incident with other pilots. Do not explain your technique. That's an order. Understood? Understood, sir. Blake turned to the ground crew. Get this aircraft to maintenance. Full damage assessment. I want a report by 1600. Then he walked away. The maintenance crew chief looked at Walsh, then at the damaged wing, then back at Walsh. "Captain, that wing shouldn't have kept you in the air." "It didn't. Rudder did." "What?" "Used rudder to counter the roll, not ailerons." The crew chief stared at him. "That's not how it works." Walsh tried to stand. Couldn't. His leg wouldn't support his weight. 2 mechanics helped him up, held him steady. "It works if you fly crooked." They took Walsh to the medical tent. The doctor examined his leg, diagnosed severe muscle strain, prescribed rest, told Walsh he couldn't fly for at least a week. Walsh lay on the cot, stared at the tent ceiling, thought about the flight home, thought about how the P-40 had responded to rudder input, thought about all the pilots who died trying to fly damaged aircraft using the wrong technique, thought about how command had just grounded him for proving they were wrong. The damaged P-40 was towed to the salvage area that afternoon. Standard procedure. The maintenance crew marked it as combat loss, total write-off, too damaged to repair. Walsh watched from the medical tent as they towed his aircraft away. He'd flown it home, landed it, walked away, proved a damaged P-40 was controllable, and command's response was to ground him and destroy the evidence. But Walsh had learned something critical. The technique worked. Damaged aircraft could fly, could be controlled, could make it home. He just needed another chance to prove it. 3 days later, he'd get that chance. And this time, he wouldn't just fly home. He'd fight. March 15th and 16th. Walsh confined to quarters, grounded pending investigation. Other pilots asked what happened. Walsh said nothing. Major Blake's orders were clear. Morning of March 17th, 0700 hours. Blake entered Walsh's tent. "Captain, you're cleared for flight duty." Walsh stood. "The investigation, sir, concluded. You violated direct orders but brought home a salvageable aircraft. Actually, maintenance says it's a total loss. But the principle stands. No disciplinary action." "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me yet. If you ever disobey an order to bail out again, I'll court-martial you myself." "Clear?" "Clear, sir." Blake pulled out a mission folder. "We have a sortie. Ground attack on German armor near Gafsa. 6 P-40s. Low-level strike. You're flying." Walsh took the folder, studied the target coordinates. Blake hesitated at the tent entrance. "Walsh, that rudder technique you used, does it actually work?" "Yes, sir." "If you get hit today, will you bail out like you're supposed to?" Walsh didn't answer. Blake left without another word. Mission briefing. 0720. Operations tent. Target, German Panzer Column. 15 tanks. Dug in 3 miles east of Gafsa. Intelligence reported minimal flak. Possible fighter interception from Luftwaffe units operating out of Gabes. 6 P-40s assigned. Low-level attack run. Each aircraft carried 1 500-pound bomb plus full gun ammunition. Walsh drew P-40E tail number 73, different aircraft than he'd flown on March 14th. This one was newer, tighter controls. The engine had only 80 hours since overhaul. Took off at 0742, 6 aircraft in loose formation. Flew northeast at 200 feet above the deck. Stayed low to avoid radar detection. Airspeed 280 miles per hour. At 0815, they crossed into German-held territory. At 0819, everything went wrong. Walsh saw the Panzers first. Dug into defensive positions. 15 tanks exactly like intelligence said. The flight leader called the attack run. 6 P-40s descended to 100 feet. Lined up on the target. 270 miles per hour. Attack speed. Walsh was number 4 in formation. His bomb bay doors opened. The 500-pound bomb hung ready. He picked his target. Panzer IV, center of the formation. That's when his wingman called, "Bandits high, 6 o'clock." Walsh looked up through his canopy, saw them. 6 Bf-109s, dropping from 8,000 feet, diving at 400 miles per hour. Ambush. The German fighters had been waiting, orbiting high, watching for American attack aircraft. Now they dove. Walsh's flight leader called, "Break, break, break." 6 P-40s scattered. Walsh broke hard left, jettisoned his bomb. The 500 pounds dropped away, hit the desert below, exploded. Walsh didn't see it. He was looking up at the Bf-109s. The lead German fighter opened fire, not at Walsh, at his wingman. Lieutenant Thomas Parker, 22 years old. Phoenix, Arizona, Parker's first combat mission. Walsh saw the tracer stream, saw it converge on Parker's P-40, saw hits on the engine cowling. White smoke poured from Parker's aircraft. Parker called that he was hit, said he was heading home. Walsh pulled hard right, tried to get behind the Bf-109 that shot Parker. Another German fighter cut across Walsh's nose, range 300 yards, closing fast. The Bf-109 fired. Walsh felt the impact immediately. Right wing, outboard section. The sound was thunder, metal tearing, aluminum fragmenting. Walsh looked right. 5 feet of wing structure gone, completely missing. The aileron was destroyed. Fuel sprayed from ruptured tank, internal wing ribs exposed. Bigger damage than March 14th. The P-40 rolled right, 40 degrees per second, accelerating. Walsh was at 100 feet altitude. No room to bail out. Ground rushing up. He had maybe 3 seconds before impact. His right leg moved automatically, kicked left rudder, shoved the pedal to the floor. The nose yawed left while the aircraft rolled right. Opposing forces balanced. The P-40 leveled at 50 feet above the desert. Flying crooked. Nose pointed 18 degrees left of flight path. Right wing high, left wing low. But flying. Walsh's flight leader called, "Wrecker, you're hit. Break off. Head home." Walsh looked at his damaged wing, looked at the 6 Bf-109s circling above at 2,000 feet, looked at his flight scattered across the sky. He thought about Parker smoking his way back to base, thought about the German fighters who'd ambushed them, thought about 3 days of sitting in his tent while command investigated whether he'd broken the rules by surviving. Walsh made a decision. He keyed his radio. "Negative, lead. I'm engaging." Silence for 2 seconds. Then, "Say again, Wrecker?" "I said I'm engaging. These bastards want to fight. I'll give them one." "Wrecker, you have 5 feet of wing missing." "I know. Doesn't matter." Walsh pulled back on the stick. The damaged P-40 climbed, sluggish, asymmetric. The nose pointed 20 degrees left while the aircraft climbed straight ahead. Looked wrong, felt wrong, but it climbed. Walsh headed toward the 6 German fighters above him. The Bf-109s orbited at 2,000 feet. Walsh climbed toward them at 800 feet per minute. His right leg pressed left rudder to the floor, constant pressure, fighting the roll moment. 2 German fighters broke formation, dove toward him. They probably thought, damaged American aircraft, easy kill. One more for the tally board. Walsh watched them dive, calculated angles. When they reached 1,200 yards, he did something they didn't expect. He turned toward them. Not a conventional turn, an asymmetric skid. Walsh kicked right rudder while holding left rudder pressure. The P-40 yawed right but didn't roll. The nose swung through 30 degrees in less than 2 seconds. The aircraft moved sideways through the air, skidding, drifting. The lead Bf-109 pilot had calculated his deflection based on normal aircraft movement, based on physics, based on how P-40s were supposed to fly. But Walsh's P-40 didn't fly normal. The German's deflection calculation was wrong. Walsh's nose came through the turn pointing directly at the Bf-109. Range 800 yards, closing at combined speed of 500 miles per hour. Walsh fired 6 50 caliber Browning machine guns, 70 rounds per second combined. The sound was continuous thunder. Tracers reached out, orange streaks converging at 300 yards. The Bf-109 flew directly into the stream. Hits on engine cowling, hits on wings, hits on canopy. The German fighter exploded. Orange fireball, black smoke, pieces of aircraft tumbling through the air. Walsh flew through the debris cloud. Felt impacts on his fuselage, fragments hitting aluminum. He didn't care. First kill. The second Bf-109 was right behind his wingman, range 600 yards. The German pilot firing, 20mm cannon rounds streaking toward Walsh. Walsh shoved left rudder harder, pulled back stick. The damaged P-40 didn't climb normally. It climbed while yawed 20 degrees left, corkscrewing upward, moving through space in a way no aircraft should move. The German pilot tracked where Walsh should be, where physics said a climbing aircraft would be. Walsh wasn't there. He was 50 feet left of that position, because damaged aircraft don't follow physics. Walsh rolled inverted, not with ailerons, with rudder. He kicked right rudder. The nose yawed right while the aircraft rotated around its longitudinal axis. Looked like a corkscrew, like the aircraft was drilling through the air. Walsh pulled through, came down behind the second Bf-109, range 400 yards, fired, 3-second burst. The Bf-109's tail section disintegrated. The aircraft pitched down, trailing smoke, out of control. 2 kills in 90 seconds, 4 Bf-109s remaining. Walsh checked his gauges. Fuel, 3/4 full. Ammunition, 1,400 rounds remaining. Right leg, cramping, but functional. The P-40 was still flying, and Walsh was just getting started. The 4 remaining Bf-109s regrouped at 4,000 feet. Walsh was at 2,500 feet. Damaged. Alone. His flight mates had scattered during the initial ambush. The German pilots circled, studied him. They'd watched him destroy 2 of their squadron, watched a damaged P-40 move through space like no aircraft they'd seen. Now they were cautious. Walsh didn't give them time to think. He climbed toward them. Right leg shaking from rudder pressure. Aircraft yawed 15 degrees left. Climbing at 700 feet per minute. The Germans split. 2 went high. 2 stayed level. Standard bracket tactic. Walsh flew toward the 2 level fighters. Head-on pass. Combined closure rate 500 miles per hour. Range collapsed. 2,000 yards, 1,500, 1,000. At 800 yards, both Bf-109s opened fire. 20mm cannons, machine guns. Tracers filled the air. Walsh held his asymmetric attitude, kept flying crooked. At 600 yards, he fired. 6 50 caliber streams converging. 1 Bf-109 took hits across the engine. The German pulled up, rolled away, trailing smoke. The second Bf-109 passed Walsh's right side. 200 feet separation. Walsh kicked right rudder, reversed his yaw. The P-40 snapped around 90 degrees in 2 seconds. Not turning, yawing. No lift-induced drag, just directional change. Walsh came around. Got guns on the Bf-109's tail. Fired. Hits on fuselage. Wing root. The 109 exploded. 3 kills. 2 Bf-109s remaining, both diving from above. Walsh looked up, saw them coming at 450 miles per hour. Standard response? Dive away. Walsh climbed toward them. Head-on geometry. BF-109's diving. Walsh climbing. Closure rate 600 miles per hour. At 1,000 yards, Walsh kicked hard right rudder. The P-40 snap-yawed 45 degrees right, slid sideways through the air. Both German pilots lost gun solution. They'd aimed where Walsh should be. Walsh was 100 feet right of that position. The Germans passed Walsh's left side. Walsh reversed, kicked left rudder, yawed back 90 degrees, came around behind the trailing BF-109, range 500 yards, fired. The 109's left wing exploded. Aircraft rolled inverted, fell, 4 kills, 1 BF-109 remaining. The German pilot broke off, climbed to 6,000 feet, circled, watching. Walsh followed. Took 3 minutes to climb 3,500 feet. The German waited. Walsh reached 6,000 feet. The German dove. Standard diving attack. Speed advantage. Walsh turned into the attack. Asymmetric skid turn. The P-40 moved through space unpredictably. The 109 pilot tried to track him. Couldn't. At 400 yards, Walsh fired. Lead computing in his head. His gun sight pointed 15 degrees left of his flight path. Had to calculate deflection manually. He calculated correctly. Hits on the BF-109's cockpit. The aircraft nosed over, crashed into desert. 5 kills. Walsh turned for home. 0831. 11 minutes of combat. Then he saw the 6th BF-109. Coming from his 6 o'clock low. German pilot had stayed out of the fight. Watched. Waited. Now moving in for the kill. Walsh too slow to evade. Too damaged to maneuver hard. Range 800 yards. Closing. Walsh did something desperate. Cut throttle to idle. The P-40 decelerated violently, from 200 miles per hour to 140 miles per hour in 4 seconds. The BF-109 pilot wasn't expecting it. Overshot. Flew past Walsh's right side. Walsh fired as the 109 passed. 90-degree deflection shot. Nearly impossible. Hits on the 109's tail. The German aircraft pitched down, lost control, crashed. 6 kills. Walsh's ammunition counters, 240 rounds remaining. Fuel, 1/4 tank. Right leg, completely numb. But the P-40 still flew. Walsh turned for Thalepta. 73 miles. Flying crooked, flying alive. Walsh called Thalept Tower. Tower, wrecker inbound. Emergency, right wing damaged. Tower. Wrecker, this is your 2nd damaged landing in 3 days. What's your status? 5 feet of right wing missing. 6 kills confirmed. Request straight-in approach. Silence. Then, Wrecker, say again. Did you say 6 kills? Affirmative. Also request medical standing by. Right leg non-functional. Roger, Wrecker. Cleared any runway. Every officer on base is watching. Walsh approached at 140 miles per hour. Aircraft yawed 18 degrees left. Looked like it would miss the runway. But Walsh held the asymmetric attitude. Crossed threshold, reduced power. Touched down left gear first. Aircraft bounced, settled, rolled 1,200 feet. Walsh couldn't move his right leg to brake. Had to shut down engine to stop. Ground crew swarmed the aircraft. Maintenance chief climbed on wing. Captain, how are you alive? Walsh couldn't answer. Medics pulled him from cockpit. His right leg locked in full extension. Had to physically bend it to get him out. Major Blake arrived. Looked at the damaged wing. Looked at Walsh on stretcher. 6 kills? Walsh nodded. With 5 feet of wing missing? Yes, sir. Blake turned to maintenance chief. Count his gun camera footage. I want confirmation. Then to Walsh. After medical clears you, my office. We need to talk about this rudder technique. Walsh passed out from muscle exhaustion. March 18th. Walsh released from medical. Severe muscle strain, dehydration, exhaustion. Blake called him to headquarters. Intelligence officer present, Captain Morris. They showed Walsh the gun camera footage. 6 confirmed kills, all on film. Morris studied the footage for 2 hours. Captain Walsh, your aircraft is moving through space in ways that shouldn't be possible. Asymmetric rudder control, sir. Explain. Walsh described the technique. Damaged wing creates asymmetric lift. Standard response? Opposite aileron. Problem? Ailerons make it worse. Solution? Opposite rudder. Rudder yaws the nose. Creates opposing force to roll. Aircraft flies crooked but level. Side effect? Abnormal maneuvering capability. Can yaw turn faster than conventional turns. Unpredictable flight path confuses enemy deflection calculations. Morris took notes. Can other pilots learn this? If they understand physics and have strong legs. Could you teach it? Walsh hesitated. Sir, command grounded me 3 days ago for using this technique. Blake interjected. Command was wrong. If this technique can save pilots and damaged aircraft, we need every pilot trained on it. Blake made a decision. Walsh, you're reassigned to training duty. Effective immediately, you'll teach asymmetric flight techniques to every pilot in the 99th Fighter Squadron. Walsh reported to training section March 20th. Trained pilots in pairs. 2-hour sessions. Showed them on chalkboard. Physics of asymmetric lift. Why ailerons fail. How rudder counters roll moment. By April 15th, 23 pilots trained. By May 1st, 47 pilots. Word spread beyond the 99th. Pilots from 4 different squadrons traveled to Thalepti for training. Then real-world tests began. April 28th. Lieutenant Parker took flak damage over Tunis. Left wing hit. 3 feet missing. Parker used Walsh's technique. Flew 45 miles home. Landed successfully. First successful application by another pilot. May 12th. Captain Rodriguez. Right wing shredded. Rodriguez flew asymmetric. Engaged 2 BF-109s. Shot down 1. Made it home. Statistics shifted. January through March 1943 before Walsh. 11 P-40s lost to structural damage. 8 pilots killed. April through June after Walsh technique spread. 9 P-40s damaged. 7 flown home successfully. 2 bailouts. 0 deaths. 7 pilots alive because of asymmetric flight technique. German intelligence noticed. Luftwaffe after-action reports mentioned American pilots flying damaged aircraft aggressively. One report from Jagdgeschwader 77, dated May 23rd. Engaged P-40 with visible wing damage. Expected easy kill. American pilot conducted aggressive maneuvering. Shot down Lieutenant Weber. Recommend. Do not assume damaged American aircraft are non-threatening. By June, German pilots received briefings. American pilots trained in asymmetric flight. Damaged P-40s remain dangerous. Do not pursue damaged aircraft. Radio intercepts from June 8th. German squadron leader. The American with the damaged wing just shot down Hauptmann Muller. Do not engage damaged aircraft. Repeat, do not engage. The psychological impact reversed. Before, damaged American aircraft equaled easy targets. After, damaged American aircraft equaled unpredictable threats. Mediterranean Air Command issued Technical Bulletin 43-7, August 1943. Walsh's rudder technique now official doctrine. Mandatory training for all fighter pilots. Walsh received Distinguished Flying Cross, September 1943. By end of 1943, 34 pilots had used asymmetric technique in combat. 31 survived. 28 aircraft recovered. Walsh flew 47 more combat missions, shot down 11 more enemy aircraft. Total, 17 kills. War ended May 1945. Walsh returned to Montana. October 1945. Age 31. Returned to crop dusting. Never talked about the war. Married in 1947. Had 2 children. Ran small airfield outside Billings. Walsh died in 1996. Age 82. Small funeral. 40 people. 3 were former P-40 pilots. 1 was Thomas Parker, first graduate of Walsh's training. Parker's eulogy. Wrecker Walsh taught me that aircraft don't have to fly pretty. They just have to fly. Sometimes flying crooked is the only way to fly home. Walsh's P-40 tail number 73, recovered in 1987. Found in Tunisian desert, restored. National Museum of the United States Air Force. Display plaque reads, P-40 Warhawk flown by Captain Robert Walsh. March 17, 1943. Walsh shot down 6 German fighters while flying with 5 feet of wing missing. His asymmetric flight technique saved 94 American pilots during World War II. Most visitors walk past. But pilots always stop. They look at the damaged wing. They understand. Not because Walsh was brave. Because he understood that flying wrong was better than dying right. Thank you for watching.